Hi, Alistair. Welcome back to another masterclass. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about one particular word in Spanish, which is compromiso, right? Compromiso. Now, this is a kind of an interesting word because it's something that is very, I don't know, it kind of it jumped out at me when I started to learn Spanish because I thought compromiso, like what, how does that work? How does it, it doesn't seem to really work in translation into English. And that's absolutely true, right? And it actually is a very sort of common false friend. So yeah, that's what it's going to be today. We're going to talk a little bit about that and then obviously create the challenge. So what is the main problem with that word compromiso, Alistair? I think mainly really is the whole idea that most Spanish speakers are very tempted to just go for compromise, right? Translate it directly across.
Yeah, it's logical. No, it's this classic thing we talk about false friends all the time. And this is a good example because it's almost identical word, compromiso, compromise. Almost the same.
Yeah,
I presume
exactly.
it comes from the same origin from Latin, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's interesting how sometimes a word that we presume comes from Latin with a Latin base in two different languages at some point, it's gone off in two directions and acquired a different meaning, the same word basically in each language. So
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
Spanish speaker, it's obvious just to assume that, compromise, compromiso, easy. I know what it means, no? Unfortunately, it doesn't mean what you think it means. This is the problem. So it's so easy to fall into that trap, as there are with many false friends. And this is a particular one you hear a lot. And it's a common word people use. That's why.
Yeah, and it's also very important in sort of a business context as well. So it's like really, really important to get right. So when you're thinking about the word compromiso, you're thinking about the meaning of that, and then you think, okay, how can I translate it? You don't want to go to compromise. You actually want to go to use the word commitment, right? That's it.
Commitment.
That's the main thing. Yeah, your commitment. Okay, you have to make a commitment. All right. Now, of course, you can make a commitment in a whole variety of different contexts, right? When you get married, it's a commitment,
big
right?
Legal commitment.
Yes. Yeah. When you buy a house, that's a commitment. Even to a certain degree, when you have a sort of a contract for your mobile phone, there's a certain level of commitment there, right? Sometimes you have to. There's a contract for a year. You get penalized if you leave that contract, right? So there's a certain level of commitment. It's a compromiso.
Yeah,
right?
And you can use it as you are committed. So there is a commitment. You have a commitment, and you are committed, ed, to something. So you can be committed. You can also be committed to like political, good causes, political causes. You have political commitment. But also in your job, and this is the point for our listeners, is mainly looking at this in terms of work. Obviously, in work, you have to be committed to your job, to the company you work for, to a certain extent at least. Some level of commitment, to get up in the morning and be on time and attend the meetings you have to attend and give as much commitment to your job as you can to do it well.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's important to understand that is the main translation, commitment, from compromiso. But at the same time, we also want to focus on this other word that is actually the false friend, right? Which is really important, right? To compromise. And so that's also part of the challenge here, is not only to think of a story where you've got a certain level of commitment, right? But also another story or a similar story where you needed to compromise. Okay, so we need to get this into your brain so that one of them is commitment, the other one is compromise, and they mean two different things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they're both very common words people use in your private life and also in your business life. So at work, there'll be perhaps even more than commitment at work. Well, in life in general and at work, very often you have to compromise. It's necessary. Or you can't really function. Really, you can't function in a relationship or marriage without compromising. That's sure. And also, with your colleagues in your job, there are many occasions, or between your company in negotiations with another company, with your clients, customers, whatever you want to call them, there will be many situations where you have to reach a compromise solution. You need to compromise. Right. So what does that mean to compromise, Daniel? What would you understand?
Yeah. I think the kind of you explained that very nicely,
Mm,
and I think another way of explaining it might be is when you buy a house, right? It's kind of like they have an asking price, and you kind of offer them a certain level of money, but they're not really happy with
mm,
that offer that you have, and so you have to reach some sort of compromise to get to the end, right? So it's like, okay, they want to really sell you their house, you really want to buy it, but in
mm.
the end, you need to compromise a little bit. They need to reduce their price. You need to maybe add a little bit
Yeah,
more to what you're offering, and so it's a compromise. And
yeah.
it's
It's like a
somewhere some middle.
middle
Yeah,
solution that you're both not 100% happy with, but you're happy enough with it to accept it. So neither of you
absolutely.
gets exactly what you wanted at the beginning. So you have a sort of starting position, as you say, in a negotiation. Could be between employees and the employer at work. You know, they say we want 10% salary increase, and the employer offers 2. It's obviously very far
Yeah,
apart at this point. Now, to reach an
yeah,
agreement that each of you will have to reduce where you arrive. Maybe in the end, you do go, okay, 5%. Okay, so neither side is
yeah,
completely happy because they didn't get what they wanted initially, but
yeah.
it's better than So they say, okay, compromise. Now, if neither side compromises, they stick with their original position and they don't move,
Hmm.
and then you're not going to reach an agreement. It's impossible. So both sides
Yeah,
need to compromise to get to, okay, in the middle, 5%. Okay, we'll accept that. And this happens
yeah,
all the time in all kind, no, business negotiations, compromising. So in a marriage, when you have a partner, you live with someone, you have to compromise. So I don't know.
you have to
You
compromise all the
say
time.
one
Yeah,
of you likes
absolutely.
holidays at the beach and the other one likes holidays in the mountains. So you say,
Yeah,
what are we going to do for our holidays? So if
yeah,
you say, okay, a week at the beach and then a week at the mountains, okay. So each of you has
exactly.
compromised. So neither of you gets
Absolutely.
2 weeks doing what you want, but you at least get 1 week doing what you want. So you're both sort of
That's right.
equally happy or unhappy, depending how you look at it. But if you refuse to
Yeah,
compromise, each side says, no, 2 weeks at the beach. I refuse to go to the mountains, and vice versa.
yeah,
You're
sure,
probably
sure.
divorced in 6 months. That marriage or that relationship is not going to work.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good example,
Yeah.
Asta. Really good. Yeah. So there you go.
Mm.
Okay. So the key thing here and the challenge, we should
Mm.
definitely sort of make it very clear
Mm-hmm.
here, is to create a story, maybe a story in 2 parts or in
Mm.
1 part,
Yeah.
whatever,
Can be true, or
where
you can make it up to
you can
invent.
make it up as
Mm.
well. Absolutely. Um, and one of the stories has to be related to a certain level of commitment that you have, maybe with, I don't know, it could be anything.
Mm.
It could be in your personal life or
Mm.
in your business life or your working life. And so that's the commitment. And then the other one is a compromise, some sort of compromise that you needed to reach recently, just
With
so
someone,
that you kind
a
of,
colleague at
yeah, with
work, your
someone,
wife,
whatever.
a
Yeah,
friend, your
absolutely.
parents. It doesn't matter. No, any situation. No, you could manage, if you're clever, to get both of them into the same story, but it doesn't have to be. You
That would
could
be
tell
perfect.
2 separate
Yeah,
examples if you like. No problem.
absolutely. And I
Mm.
think the key point here is also to get used to and familiar with and sort of comfortable with sort of swapping them around and playing with those
Mm.
words, right? Because otherwise, you will always tend to go back to the problem or kind of basically where you're translating and kind of say, oh, yeah,
Mm.
well, compromiso is compromise.
It
No.
isn't. Yeah.
Okay. No.
There isn't.
So
I
you
think in
need to
Spanish
make
there
a.
isn't actually a word exactly for compromise. You really have to
Mm.
explain it. So you'd probably say llegar a un acuerdo a medias or
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
something like this.
Yeah.
But our word, I don't think exists. I've never found one.
No. Yeah, sure. Sure.
So yeah, in English is great. It's a very useful word. This to
It is.
compromise as a
It
verb
is.
or a
Yeah.
compromise as a noun.
Also very important in negotiations.
Yeah,
We haven't mentioned that, but like we all talking in a way. We're talking about
yeah,
negotiations here, and like when you're sort of compromising, you're negotiating as
yeah.
well.
Sort
So
of the
yeah,
definition of negotiating in a way. I mean,
yeah,
because if you just
yeah,
say this is my position and I'm not changing, that's it. There is no
yeah.
negotiation. Effectively, no.
That's right.
So
Exactly.
all
Yeah, yeah,
negotiations in some way reach a point where you agree, and both sides probably have had to compromise. So you
yeah.
don't get at the end of the negotiation exactly what you wanted at the beginning. That's usually
That's
the
right.
case.
Exactly.
So you have
Yeah,
to compromise to a certain
yeah,
extent.
yeah. Fantastic. Alistair, thank you very much. I think our members, our Fluency community members will now know what they need to do. We'll be looking forward to their videos. I know that you certainly will
Always
be looking
get
forward
those
to their
videos
videos.
in. I like to see them.
Giving them their personalized feedback. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And we'll obviously speak again next week.
Okay. Yeah. See you. Bye.
All right. Speak soon. See you then. Bye.